happened?
Hello and welcome back to Daring and Doing. I'm Will Hester and I'm joined by the brilliant Ben Bowman. Bowman? How you doing, mate?
Boneman? I'm good, mate. I'm good. That's like going back to school. No, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Bowman.
God.
Bowman.
Bowman. Mate, I've been called worse than that. It's late. It's late. We're doing it. This is late night.
This is Wednesday night, by the way. Which also we have no idea what the team news is going to be. But bear with us. Yeah, exactly. This is a preview for the Luton game. But also we're going to be talking about sort of recapping all the important bits from the last week, international performances, etc. like that. But yeah, most importantly, how you doing? You're right.
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Spurs are back. The international break is done, thankfully. Yeah. I actually didn't mind it. I thought England were quite good last night, but just the whole this 2-week break has felt like about 4 weeks with the flag conversation and then the 2 games and then team selection and all this crap. It's just like I'm so glad it's done now.
Yeah.
And we are back. Spurs are back.
Well, that's the thing. Like with the international break now, it's quite close to that tournament, to the Euros in the final in the summer. So like people are sort of thinking towards that instead of just
it's the last one.
Yeah, exactly. So you're now looking at the last official squad to go. So it's quite a good topic around it. And also after that Fulham game, it was kind of nice to just get a little break from Spurs and just refresh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How are you feeling going into this Luton game in regards to Spurs?
I feel all right. I feel like someone was saying this the other day, and I think it was around the topic of Arsenal having however many games in succession before they play us, and us having a 2-week break. I actually think that gives them a bit of an advantage over us, because I think we've not been great when we've had that break this season, coming back into it, because you just lose that little bit of momentum. And I mean, we lost all the momentum that we did have going into the Fulham game at Fulham, so this is a good chance to reset. So maybe it will benefit us. But I think it would have been maybe nice to have it the week after, just to have that instant reaction. Luton's away form is pretty poor. Like, on the face of it, this should be a pretty comfortable win for Spurs, but it's Tottenham, so who knows? But I feel all right. I'm looking forward to us being back. Like, I think there's a kind of I think there'll be a bit of an energy maybe that wasn't there the last couple of weeks, because I think we've got, obviously the stuff with Richarlison that's come out today, kind of having an extra thing to sort of get behind him and get behind the team as well. Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to have that off the back of how sad that was, but it's a good little extra thing to sort of
get behind,
rejuvenate
Richy,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to it, mate.
Do you want to let's talk about a Richarlison interview, because it was inspiring and it was so brave of him. It was incredible to think, and I saw your tweet about how an interview like that, and opening up and being vulnerable and talking about it, if that's going to save so many lives, and there isn't really that connection between mental health and football. And Richarlison's doing wonders just by talking about himself, his own experience with it. It's doing wonders for young kids watching football and knowing that's the best thing to do. What was your thoughts watching that? Watching that interview with him, because it was amazing, and it shows so much about his character. The fact that he's been able to conquer that such a difficult period in his life.
Yeah, I was a bit blown away by it, to be honest, because it was like he's already been very open, and at the start of the season when he had those struggles when he was out for Brazil, and then he came back to Tottenham and scored that goal against Sheffield United, and the way we kind of rallied behind him then, it was clear that something was obviously not right, and he'd been open about it then. But this is a whole other level of some of the stuff that he's been talking about. The thought of potentially not wanting to play football anymore. Having thoughts as dark as potentially suicide. Like, it was horrible to watch, because it's someone that's just bearing all for but bearing all for like an amazing reason, because it just shows you that whoever you are, whether you've got money and you're in the privileged position of being Brazil's number 9. And this is the crazy thing, was that he was talking about it off of the back of the World Cup, where he was on fire for Brazil, scored the goal of the tournament with the bicycle kick, was banging him in, wore that number 9 like he was Ronaldo. He was playing amazingly, and it was just goes to show that what's on the surface isn't always what's actually going on inside someone's head. And when he was talking about those dark thoughts off the back of what was an amazing tournament for him personally, just shows you that on the surface everything can be going so well for someone, but it's not always the case inside their head. And I think that's a valuable lesson to learn for like a lot of people. Like, you might have a friend that, you know, feels happy all the time, is the kind of life and soul of the party when you're going down the pub, but actually sometimes it's the case that they're using that to mask how they feel inside. And it was amazing for him to do that, like to be that brave and that vulnerable, and, you know, break down in tears, and to show how dark it got for him. But he also spoke then about the importance of speaking to someone, and how he feels in a much, much better place now because he's been able to do that. And I think it's something that everyone should kind of, you know, not everyone has the access to professional help in the way that maybe he does or some people do. But even if it's just talking to a mate, like just getting those things off your chest and having a chat, because, you know, that could save your life. That could save someone's life, just having someone else there to speak to. And I think that's what, you know, however much money you've got, however famous you are, you know, you've got the dream life as a professional footballer. It's not always the way. So yeah, it was an amazing thing for him to do. So brave, so vulnerable, like you said, and it made him even more proud for him to be ours, really.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's one of those things where when a player's that talented and quality, and they have a drop off like that, it more often than not, it probably is psychological. And sounds like he was really battling with it off the pitch, and then that would rub off into his actual footballing, and into every game that he'd play, and you could see that his head wasn't fully in it. And then obviously he took a bit of time off, had that surgery, come back, and you can see that obviously during that time he'd been talking to a psychiatrist, getting things off his chest, by the sounds of it. And you can just see it all just drop off his shoulders. He was playing like a player who had so much on his shoulders off the pitch, and then the added pressure of, I mean, he's active on social media. He would have seen all the stick he was getting during that time, on top of all that shit that was going on in his personal life, and that would have affected him as well. Everything. It's all about confidence, mindset, and it just shows his character that he was able to overcome that, and that he was very self-aware, and that he needed to get it off his chest and talk about it. And it's so inspiring, like you were saying, for people that are in the same position as him, and to go talk to someone, and how much it helps. And you could compare it with Dele Alli. Like Dele Alli was saying how therapy for him helped him so much in just getting things off his chest, talking, getting things. And then obviously that interview with Neville is sort of similar theme. And another player that was so talented that the performances dropped, and it turned out as well to be a mental health, just issues in his personal life that was taking his toll on him on the pitch as well. So yeah, it puts it into hindsight of people when they're giving people shit on social media, whether you should think, hang on, there's more, it's more than football. Do you know what I mean? And I'm so proud of him for overcoming it, seeming like he's coming out the other side. Also, I mean, he deserves the biggest praise for how he's overcome such a tough situation. But also, I think Spurs here have as a club, and the atmosphere around the club has definitely benefited him. Having captains like Sonny. I mean, you saw after the Sheffield United game how Son was pushing him to the front of the queue, and how it just to get that appreciation for the fans, get him confident, get him feeling, getting those like dopamine to him of us buzzing off his performances again. And then also Ange conducted himself so brilliantly throughout it. He was saying, I remember him talking about footballers have mental health struggles as well. Like he was so amazing in the way he came across and talked about mental health issues, and then sort of related that to Richarlison at the time. So having a manager like Ange who's handled this situation so well, and actually got the best out of Richarlison after that struggle, because it's so hard to then take your mind off things and get and then get your form back. It's not even just football. It's if you're struggling, everything suffers. Do you know what I mean? I'm so proud of him for coming out and looking like he's overcoming it.
Me too. Yeah, exactly. I think the problem that Richarlison has had is that he is a kind of a bit of a divisive character on the football field. Like, there's a lot of people that don't like him because of the way he plays, the kind of way. It's unfair to say the way he carries himself on the pitch, but we all know what
he's a
I'm
shit
talking
house.
about. He's a shit house, exactly. So, like, and you can tell through that, like, he's playing his best when he's confident and thriving, and like you could see something was completely missing from Richarlison when from the point he kind of arrived to the point up until the start of this season where things just clicked. And, sometimes it takes that to get those things off your chest, to kind of feel like you're in the right environment, to really, really kick on. And, this isn't a personal, none of this has got anything to do with Antonio Conte or anything like that from last season, but you could tell that the way that Conte handled certain things personally with Richarlison, you can't bear Conte responsible for any of this. It's not his fault. But, when you think sometimes about the way that he spoke about Richarlison and kind of put him down, all this stuff, you need a manager that's going to kind of, not just for Richarlison, but for all of the players and all of the squad, that needs someone who's just going to look after them, protect them, be that kind of father figure that Postecoglou has been. And like you said, when you've got a captain like Sonny who takes that responsibility so well, has done so, like, he's part of creating this environment where these young players feel like they're part of it and feel comfortable. And I think this Spurs squad is something to be proud of anyway, in terms of the way that a lot of the players carry themselves. But for Richarlison to do what he's done today, well, it wasn't today, but what's come out today, or yesterday by the time you're listening to this, and I'm sure everyone's seen it now, was, so brave and such an important thing to do, because you don't know the dark places that some people are in, and you don't want to call it dark because you don't want to, like, not to trivialize it, but you don't want to put the taboo on it, for example. This shouldn't be a taboo. And what Richarlison's done is hopefully help break down the barriers, because we know what sporting environments at the highest level can be like, with men especially. Like, they can become quite toxic. And, there's a reason why it's taken this long for footballers to come out and speak this openly, because of fear of just feeling like you're not strong enough or you're not enough of a man. Like, it's all of those things, all of those kind of stereotypes that are associated with high octane, high testosterone driven environments, and I think it's so brave what he's done to do that. And I think that, I can't wait to see him on Saturday to kind of, once again show the appreciation that we have got for him, and really get behind him, because we've seen, like, he's a massive confidence player. Like, this season has just been could not be further from what we saw last year. Kind of head down, just not at it, like trying so hard, but just things not coming off for him. Whereas this season, although his form has kind of tailed off the last couple of games before he got injured, but when he's playing at that highest level, he is just a brilliant asset to have, and a brilliant player to have around the football club, a brilliant character. So I'm super proud of him, and I can't wait to hopefully he gets some minutes back on the pitch on Saturday, and we can all get behind him.
Yeah, it will. It'll be, and from the club point of view, this interview going into this Luton game, with people feeling quite nervous about like maybe we'll lose again, but it puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Of actually what is important.
Yeah.
We've got a player now who's been struggling, and we kind of need to forget about Luton, forget about the result, get behind him, get behind the team, get that confidence, and show how proud we are in him, and how proud we are with the players, and how they've carried themselves this season, how they've carried themselves in the public, because there's such a good feel around the club, and that atmosphere would be good for Richarlison and would have been really, really helpful for him, trying to change that sort of mindset, get that positivity back into him. And it'll be really good to see the whole crowd get behind him, because that's going to happen, and hopefully, he gets minutes, because hopefully he's fit, and fit and firing again, because fully fit firing Richarlison is such an asset to have. Going into the Luton game,
could be the difference between top four and not. Yeah, it could be the difference between top four and not top four.
100%.
And not to like you said, it's all in perspective. And like the important thing is that for Richarlison is that
of course,
he's okay. He's got these things off his chest, but he is such an important player for us, and has shown that this season. So to have him back in a state where he, and he's obviously. I think he obviously got very upset in the interview, but I think it was because he was going back over stuff. It wasn't a representation necessarily of how he feels now. It was more just those things kind of coming back to the surface. And no, he kind of ended it by speaking really positively about going to therapy and speaking to our psychologist, which is really important for people to take away in terms of like I said, even if you haven't got access to be able to do that, to be able to speak to someone. So it's good that he is in the place that he is now, but it's just another little kind of shot in the arm for people to get behind him and just show their appreciation for someone who's been so important for us this season.
Yeah.
And having him back could make a massive difference to our season.
Yeah. I love Richarlison, and I'm so proud of him. So proud that he's our striker as well. Such an incredible person and player to have, like you're saying, around the dressing room and as leading the team. Moving on to Luton then, what type of game do you expect this to be, and how do you think we'll perform against them? How do you think they'll perform against us? Are you expecting any differences? How do you think they're gonna set up? Stuff like that. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of the crunch point for them in their season because they've been handed a lifeline really with the Forest points deduction, and they drew with Forest last time out, which has kind of not let Forest get away from them massively. So they're firmly still within a shout of surviving. I think they're level on points with Forest going into this game, so they're going to come here with that little bit of we can come here and try and get a result because we need it. They're not out of the woods. Like they're in a good position now. So they'll be confident. They will know that this is one of their harder games they've got left. They're almost coming with that lack of pressure really a little bit. But Luton's away form has been really poor. They haven't really been able to keep the ball out the back of the net away from home. They've made it really tough and tight at Kenilworth Road, got into some really great clashes with some top sides, but away from home, it just hasn't quite been the same story for them. They went to Liverpool, and although they went 1-0 up in that game, I remember, Liverpool just turned it on and were too much for them in the second half, 1-4-1. And I expect them to be compact. I expect them to make it difficult for Tottenham, but I also expect Tottenham to be good enough to get 3 points. This is a bit of a nervy game, especially off the back of what happened against Fulham. I think set pieces are going to be a big thing for Spurs. We've kind of talked about that before and how we seem to be unable to defend from set pieces, and they're a big physical side. They'll look to take those opportunities, so that's something that Spurs will have to watch out for. I don't think Adebayo is available for the game, which is a huge blow for them. I think he's out for the next kind of couple of months, so they're not at full fitness, Luton. So Spurs kind of need to take advantage of that really, and make sure we hammer this game home as a real opportunity to get back in the driving seat for top four. But I expect them to make it difficult. I don't expect them to set up necessarily any differently to what they have been doing, Luton. They'll try and pose a threat. They'll try and be compact. But I just think with how open they have been, even when trying to do that, especially away from home, I do expect Spurs to go and win this game.
Yeah, I really love Luton, and I really hope they stay up. And there's a bit of a throwback feel to Luton, and they're proper like football club.
A bit like when Blackpool got promoted. It was a little bit like, this is new. This is a bit exciting. Like, you kind of got behind them a little bit, and it was like they were giving it a go to teams, and which is what you kind of want to see. Like, it's good. The story that they've been on, the rollercoaster kind of journey of their season. Being flipped upside down with losing their captain, and the kind of story around them anyway. Like, people wanted to get behind them from the start, but they've just had this roller coaster, and they've done amazingly well. But I think Tottenham should. I think this is a game that you're going in this. You have to win this game. Like, there's no excuses for Tottenham, I think, on Saturday.
100%. I worry for if Luton do shock us, and Luton will be definitely sensing this vulnerability around us. Going into this game, obviously getting thumped by Fulham and then having a 2-week dwelling period isn't good. Isn't good.
Yeah.
You've got no momentum going into the game, there is nerves, and nerves will build up. If we haven't scored in the first 45 minutes, the nerves you'll be able to sense it, and Luton will be able to sense that bit of vulnerability, and they'll go for it. Of course they will. Luton, I mean, they've shown courage. If anything, like throughout the season, they will have a go at whoever you are. They'll have a go at you. So I do expect them to take some heavy shots like against us, and I'd expect us to take heavy hits during the game. I just think, and I don't want to sound cocky or anything like that, but I do think Spurs are due a 5-goal plus win under Postecoglou, and I just feel like if you think back at it, I'm fairly confident we could score quite a lot of goals. I mean, I'm not that confident we'll get a clean sheet, but I mean, but I can see us scoring a lot of goals if we get maybe a couple back like in the first half, and then we normally perform better in the second half, anyways. And score a couple or maybe a few. So if we're going to win a game by 5, I do think it might be Luton, but I don't expect it to be a walk in the park at all. And my thinking behind us scoring loads of goals is when we went to Luton, we should have been 4-0 up within the first 15 minutes, and that was away from home. We were so good. Richarlison obviously missed that good chance at the beginning. Within the first couple of minutes, Porro missed a good chance. There was another shot. Was it Son missed? Richarlison could have had like a first half hat trick. We did tear him apart. We only won 1-0 in the end, and that was mainly because Bissouma got sent off. And again, Luton had a couple of threatening chances as well. So I expect us to start and finish the game how we started against Luton when we played away. And I do think we might just be too much for Luton. We'll have that sort of that thing, like we need to prove that we are a top 4 club. And this is their game to then bounce back and almost forget that Fulham result. We need everything that went wrong for them. We need to reverse this in this Luton game. And Luton at home, I know it's not going to be easy, but this is that chance to sort of put things right. What team do you think we're going to play against them? Because I actually think this is a game for Richarlison up front. Only because against Luton he was so effective, but actually he didn't have the best game against Luton, but he was such a threat. And you've got a different Richarlison, like we were saying now, someone who has that pressure off his shoulders. I just think this is a perfect game for Richarlison. And I don't know if Van der Ven will be back, but what do you expect the team will play against them?
Yeah, like you said, obviously we're recording this on Wednesday night, so we haven't got the benefit of any update on team news. It's interesting because Spurs have been posting some training photos, and I know that Spurs fans like to think that they're the best detectives in the world in terms of piecing out who's fit and who's not. I haven't seen Van der Ven in any of them, so that's a bit of a worry.
Yeah.
I think especially from. And again, this isn't obviously we talked a lot about Dragusin in the last pod after Fulham. And it's not a slight on him. I just think that having Van der Ven back in the team just makes us a lot better, a lot more secure at the back, makes us a better team playing out from the back, and it's just a huge miss for us. So hopefully he's back fit enough to play on Saturday, or if not, certainly back hopefully fit enough to play against West Ham. Because you'd imagine at home, maybe this is another good chance for Dragusin to kind of bed in, get valuable minutes. Fulham are a good side. We went away from home and lost to them. It can happen. It's understandable. And for his first Premier League start, so maybe he needs this game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Van der Ven's not 100%, if Dragusin kind of continues to get the nod. If not, maybe you look at someone like Ben Davies to come back in and play on that left-hand side. I think Ben Davies has been so solid, such a valuable member of this team and squad throughout the course of the season. You can see how much of a leader he is from the back as well, and I think that's maybe what you need in there. So maybe Davies could potentially come back in, although I think he might give the nod to Dragusin if Van der Ven's not fit. Up the other end of the pitch, Richy, I think, if he's fit enough to start, I thought Richarlison was actually a bit of a handful when he came on against Fulham. Bear in mind, this isn't him at his full fitness coming back from an injury. He had quite a few decent chances. And I think with the way that Luton want to sit up playing a back three, like you mentioned about the game at the start of the season when we played Luton, but this was when he was playing out on the left, I think, in that game. It was Sonny through the middle and Richy on the left, whereas obviously now they've kind of, obviously Sonny's been playing through the middle in the absence of Richarlison, but if Richy does play, obviously Sonny will be back out on the left and Richy through the middle. And with the back three that they sort of set up with Kabore, Mengi, and Burke as well, that it's probably one of those for Richarlison to kind of, it might get a little bit scrappy. Spurs, it's one of those ones where I could see it being more open than you think this game, just because I think that with the way Luton want to set up, they are a front-footed side. The wing-backs like to get forward. There will be gaps for Tottenham, but I think at times there are going to be moments where Spurs do get a little bit frustrated and Luton do sit in that kind of lower block to sort of negate that threat and then try and hit us on the counter-attack with the threat of the wing-backs. So I think it might be one for Richarlison just to kind of have that presence in the box.
Yeah.
But then it's tricky because Johnson's kind of hit that vein of form on the left-hand side. Obviously, he wasn't great against Fulham, but you kind of want to almost keep giving him the opportunity to sort of show what he can do. So I wouldn't be surprised if Richie's not 100%, that he goes with Johnson from the start, and then I think we see a cameo from Richie off the bench. But I think if Richarlison is fully fit, I probably would start him. in this game. And I guess the other question is probably midfield, right? What do we do with Basuma?
Exactly. Because I was gonna come on to that. First of all, I think Dragusin will start if it's not Van de Ven. But I think what I would like to see is Romero starting that left centre back role instead of Dragusin, because I think Romero's on both feet much more competent than what Dragusin seemed to be. I'm obviously going off. I'm not going to pretend I've sat here and watched Genoa's season. I saw his YouTube clips, and you don't really see his mistakes, do you? But he did look quite suspect with his left foot. And just the short passings with his left foot, and obviously he was playing on the left, and at Genoa he was playing in the middle of a back three. It's a whole different system, whole different dynamic and formation. And when he's on the right, when he's receiving the ball on his right foot, I think he did seem a lot more comfortable. So I think I would just switch Romero and Dragusin, see how they get on there, because I think Romero's short passing, either feet, it's not a problem. And Dragusin, I think he'll just feel a bit more confident in that position. He's not going to feel alienated, where he's constantly receiving it short passing with his left foot. And then when moving up front, I don't know. I agree with you. I feel like Son probably will start up front, but I do think Richarlison's best up front with either Son or Johnson on the left wing, Kulusevski right wing. I think this would be a good game for Kulusevski. I don't think we're going to need blistering pace on the wing. I don't think we're going to need that. I think Kulusevski to sort of create those chances, keep hold of the ball. I think we're going to have a lot of the ball anyway, so I think he's perfect for this game. But midfield is a bit of a conundrum, because we were talking in the last pod about Basuma getting a lot of stick. I think this is a game for Bentancur to come in. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I think that Basuma's it's just been such a disappointing season, really, because I know you can say that he's had some amazing games for Tottenham, but that's what makes it so disappointing, is because we've seen how good that he can be. And I just thought against Fulham, I'm not one to kind of just sit here and lay into players, but it wasn't good enough from Basuma. I think I think there was an element of which that he struggled kind of being on his own in that midfield. I don't think Postecoglou reacted necessarily quick enough to kind of get him a little bit of help in there.
Yeah.
Maybe dropping Sarr back to kind of go to a bit more of a double pivot and having Maddison just to play in front, rather than the kind of midfield three that we did set up with. So he did kind of have that in go against him, but just not quick enough to track runners, not aware of the danger around him, just too slow to get back. And I just feel like we're all so desperate to see Rodrigo Bentancur kind of back to his best. I think the only way that's going to happen is through game time. And I think in this game where he might get a little bit more time on the ball, I think there will be moments where Luton try and press and go high energy and make it difficult. But I do think it's a game where he is going to get a little bit more time on it, rather than, like a Brighton at home, for example, where he was almost pressed out of that game. Brighton, that real high intensity in which they pressed us, made it look difficult and made it look like he was not ready. But I do think this is a game for Bentancur. I think that Basuma needs to kind of be aware of that responsibility he has in that midfield almost, and kind of know that his position isn't certain, And Bentancur is sitting there waiting. You can imagine Bentancur is just chomping at the bit to get back in this team. The way he speaks about Tottenham, the way he speaks about Ange Postecoglou, the way we've seen how important he can be for Spurs in the past, pre-injury. We are talking about one of the best midfielders on their day in the Premier League here, and I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. And I think that's why it's such a shame that we haven't quite seen that since he's come back. And I think, me and you have spoken about this a lot, he almost hoodwinked us a little bit, Bentancur, in those first few games, into thinking, oh my God, he's come back as good, if not better than he was. And maybe that was just down to the circumstances in the games, and actually maybe certain matchups. I remember the Man United game at Old Trafford. Man United's midfield is so open, and Bentancur looked like the best player on the pitch by a mile. He just strolled around the park, obviously got his goal, which was a huge moment for him. But actually, in some of the games where it has been a little bit more high intensity, high pressure, teams want to press your midfield. That's where he struggled a little bit. And I do think that is a reflection of his fitness, because last season we saw him as one of the best press-resistant midfielders in the Premier League. How many times did he wriggle out of tight situations where you just think, how has he done that? How has he done that? I always say that some of the guys that I go to Spurs with, we sort of christened him like the Berbatov of midfield in the way that he's able to glide away from people so elegantly and make it look so easy. And he was doing that against teams that were getting in his face, getting after him in big games as well for Tottenham. So it just for me, it's just a sharpness thing and a bit of a fitness thing for Bentancur. And I think playing him from the start in this game is hopefully going to be able to help him get back to his best. He didn't really have much minutes I think he played a half for Uruguay. They only played one game, I believe. So he played a half for them as captain as well, which just shows you how important he is to them. You know, that's a bit of a tangent, but that Uruguay midfield for the Copa America, we saw how good Bentancur was at the World Cup for them before he got injured, sort of playing in that deeper role. So I think he can do it for Spurs. I think it's just a case of sharpness. So I don't know if you agree. Would you go with Bentancur on Saturday?
Yeah, I think Basuma, I don't want to be harsh on Basuma, but I think his performances, he needs to know there is competition. He's not undroppable. It's a struggle with Basuma, I think, because he's such a confidence player. I feel like he's the type of player that you need to sort of be like, look, you're my man, and you're the person that's going to really carry us in that midfield. I don't think it's actually for his character. From a manager's viewpoint, I don't think you kind of want to sit him down and be look, you've been struggling recently. I'm going to put Bentancur in the team. I think that would actually lower his self-esteem. But you got to do what's best for the team, and what's best for the team is Basuma is just not in that state of mind to be playing right at the core of the team. Like, I know he's going to be making mistakes. I said this before. You're playing right at the core of a system that is sort of designed to. Well, it's risk taking, but you're almost set up to make mistakes every now and again. It's just you want a player that doesn't really have many mistakes in him, and at the moment, Basuma has got a lot of mistakes in him in possession, which was his main, his most like significant facet. And then out of possession, he's not cutting it at the moment. That's his biggest flaw. So he needs to sort of be dropped. He needs to sort of have a bit of time off. I think have a bit of time to sort of assess his own game, assess his own situation. I mean, he dropped for Marley. If you're getting dropped for Marley,
that's a very strange situation.
You know something's not right. And I just think you need a little bit of time. I think you need a little time to sort of gain that confidence, get out of the spotlight a bit, because what's not good is the fans getting on his back. He will become a scapegoat, especially when after like Højbjerg leaves and stuff. I think you'll always have that scapegoat in the team. It will be Basuma if he carries on. So you don't want that. You want to prevent that. So you want to just take him out of the spotlight a little bit, give him a little bit of time, have Bentancur play. The issue with Bentancur, I think, isn't his ability, because that will come after time. Is he'll get comfortable in his body again. He'll get comfortable with it. He'll feel a bit more free. Do you know what I mean? I think he's a bit restricted because he's off the back of a couple of nasty injuries. And I don't know. It's all about his sharpness. I think that will come in time. And they're saying that by the beginning of next season, that's when they expect him to be at the levels he was playing at before that injury against Leicester last season. The only issue with Bentancur is that he's come out and said that he's playing through injury, and I actually have a massive issue with that personally. I don't know about you, but I just think he's had such a significant injury that could be detrimental to his career, and he's playing through an injury. Is it his toe? Is it his toe that he's injured, or he's playing?
Yeah, he's got a broken toe.
Yeah, I mean that's nothing to do with the injury that he sustained. So like it's not like it's a recurring issue. A broken toe is sore, but you want someone to you kind of want him. You kind of want to wrap him up in bubble wrap and keep him safe and just not expose them to situations where they can hurt themselves even more, because you just need Bentancur, especially next year when we're in Europe. We need that added depth in midfield. You need Bentancur at the levels he was at previous to his injury. He was so good and he was so integral to the way we played under Conte. And then you think how he would be in a Postecoglou system, fully fit. He would be unbelievable in this system, and you can just see how he'd fit in that 8 position, I think, but also covering in that 6 position if he needs to. I just think you need him fully fit. You don't want little sort of niggly injuries just getting in his head, and a lot of it is psychological as well. once you've got over an injury, you don't want to keep feeling pain in your body. I just think if you overplay him, he might not have that same sort of impact next season. He might still be struggling. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, especially where you kind of touch on the European football element as well, because he was amazing for us in the Champions League. Last year, I remember the performances against Frankfurt away, Sporting Lisbon at home. Like he was superb. So crucial. Sporting Lisbon away as well. I remember some of the clips from that game. That still there's this one like Bentancur compilation that kind of still keeps going around. It's like everyone's sort of hoping that we'll see that Bentancur again, and we will. I do genuinely think we will. So yeah, I completely agree. The injury thing really isn't ideal. He's sort of in that interview, he spoke about the fact that by the time he's training and playing, he doesn't really think about it. But then that's just the adrenaline of getting you through that. Like it's one then tackle, and then if you've already playing with a broken toe, and then someone treads on you, and then it's just you kind of just take that step back again. So hopefully it's healed now. Like hopefully he's sort of on the mend, but it's certainly not ideal, and especially like again, it's unrelated to the injuries that he has had, but it's for someone who, you said it perfectly. Like, you want to wrap him up in cotton wool. You want to be precious about Bentancur because of how important he is and how good he's shown that he can be in this system in limited game time. So it's frustrating for sure, and certainly not ideal. And hopefully he's able to keep himself fit because we've got such a huge run of games coming up where that kind of makes the Bentancur Bissouma thing a little bit more complicated because Bissouma's best game of the season was in the North London derby away at Arsenal. He was absolutely immense in that game. So you know that when Bissouma is at his best in those big games, he can be so crucial for you. Man United at home as well. Or I had a poor one at City away where he was at fault for the third goal. But again, that was playing in a team that was just full of injuries and full of all this.
Yeah.
So, but he's shown that he can show up in the big games. But so has Bentancur. So it's like I think Bissouma's got to be looking over his shoulder because I think in the summer Spurs will probably move Højbjerg on. But I do think they'll be looking at another midfielder. There's been links to Edison from Atalanta. There's been very faint links to Onana from Everton. I think he's got to be careful, Bissouma. I do think he's got to be careful because I think in terms of there's too much of a disparity between his good and his bad. Like there's not that level of consistent which you need, which you've seen from Rodri, you've seen from Rice, like different kind of profiles, but so crucial to their team. Like there's just not that same. Bissouma's not a 7 out of 10 every week player. He's a 10 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that.
It's super frustrating because, like I said, it would be less frustrating if he was just crap all the time because it would just be an easy fix. You could just go right. Need to upgrade that position in the summer, but he's given Tottenham a little bit of a headache with his kind of lack of consistency in a way because he's shown how good he can be. So it's really frustrating. And bear in mind as well, like that was what Bentancur was. Bentancur was that 7, 8 out of 10 midfielder every single week for us prior to that injury he sustained last season. So Bissouma's got to be looking over his shoulder thinking, if I'm not at it, Bentancur's there and Spurs will potentially look to bring someone in the summer. That Spurs will sign a midfielder, I think. It just depends whether it's in that number 6 position or number 8 position or someone that can maybe do both. So I think his place in this team is under threat a bit, Bissouma. I really do.
Ben, I've been doing a bit of scouting, mate, and I've found the player that's going to play number 6 for us next year. I mean, it's not like I found a gem. I'm not a Brighton scout. He's a pretty well-known player.
It's not Rodri, is it?
Yeah. There's this guy from Man City. He's quite good. Like, he seems like
he seems all right.
I reckon he'd come to Spurs. I think it's quite a realistic move. You know what? I reckon this player would be perfect, but it's just not going to happen because he costs like 100 mil or something like that. And Postecoglou is very open in the fact that he's saying that if we're going to sign players, it will be the right player that's not going to like break the bank, basically. But João Neves, don't care, sign him.
Yeah.
Kid, that guy is mustard. I'm saying kid, he's my age. He is unreal. Do you know what I mean? Like, he is so good. But then again, we've spoken about it so many times. Like when you're looking in the market for number 6, it's just like actually impossible to find a player that could elevate you. Because the thing about number 6, and this is the problem with Bissouma has, they've got to be the most consistent player on the pitch. Everything is through them. They're instrumental to every just the way you play every single move, that number 6 is involved either in the build-up and breaking up any attack from the opposition. They've got to be the smartest player on the pitch, and that's why most of them turn into the best managers. So when you're looking in the market for a number 6, it's so difficult, and you need to be smart. And I just think Basuma isn't that aware. I just don't think he's that. He's so good. I mean, that's the thing you're talking about with the frustration around him, because he's got so much ability. It's just when you're looking for that number 6 to elevate us to the next level, you need that number, you need that position to be almost your best player. And Basuma isn't our best player. You can name probably about 9 players in this first 11 that are better than him at this moment in time. And you need, like, you look at Rice, you look at Rodri, you look at trying to think who else. Every elite team has that player in that position that just pulls the strings and makes it look easy and takes that stress off all the players around him. And it will be hard to replace them. It will be hard to sort of find that player in the market. And I just think Basuma, like you're saying, he's got to look over his shoulder. He's got to be aware of this, and he's got to start playing quick, because I think the fans are losing patience with him, and it's worrying. But hopefully he can get back to the form he was. That's the thing. He's got it in his locker. Hopefully he can get back to the form. But yeah, I'd play Bentancur against Luton. I think Basuma just needs that little bit of a break, bit of a rest, mentally more than anything. It was a brilliant international break for Dane Scarlett. He's such a talent, and he's had an unfortunate loan spell at the beginning of the season with Ipswich. But Ange seems to quite like him. I remember Paul O'Keefe tweeting that Ange actually has him above Alejo Velez in the pecking order, which I found interesting at a time. But we haven't really seen too much of him. Is there a question that Ange doesn't really do enough to sort of integrate youth into the team? Is that an argument that could be had? Because Dane Scarlett, he's the profile of Dane Scarlett. I know he's probably not ready. This is under 20s that he got 5 goals in 2 games for England. But his profile is probably as close to a Postecoglou striker as you can get. When it comes to his instinct, his mobility, he's filled into his body a lot more, isn't he? He looks like a bloke now. He's not a kid. I don't think he doesn't look like a child. And obviously his finishing is ridiculous. We can talk about Dane Scarlett, but in general as well, do you think Ange is doing enough is there an argument to have that he's not doing enough to integrate those players into the team?
I think there have been moments where maybe certain players could have been given opportunities quicker or been given more minutes. But I just think sometimes what the problem is that people will look at maybe Liverpool and see what Klopp's done and say, well, why can't Ange do that? I remember there was a big conversation around that when Liverpool went through that phase where they had all those injuries and you had all those young kids being given a chance. And I think that people used it as almost a bit of a stick to beat Postecoglou with. Which I didn't really understand, because Liverpool's hand had been forced. They had to make those changes because of the amount of injuries that they had. And Spurs haven't been in a position where we've had to have those players starting games. Obviously, Jamie Donnelly has come off the bench a fair bit, but it's only been for a couple of minute spells at the end of the game. Iago Santiago's been on the bench occasionally. Scarlett's been on the bench, came on against Burnley in the FA Cup, came on against Fulham in the League Cup at the start of the season before. He went out on loan, and he obviously does fancy Scarlett. And like you said, I was watching one of the under-21 games recently. It was the game where I think it was Fleetwood that we beat at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I think we won 6-1, and Donnelly had a field day. But Scarlett really impressed me, sort of playing up front, but also just off the left a little bit. Obviously, he's been very unlucky, Scarlett, because he kind of went to Ipswich, and they just kicked on, hit form without him in the team at the start, and then they just never really looked back, so he never really got that opportunity, which was unfortunate for him. I think Ange could maybe be a little bit better, but I think you're just asking for ideals when actually sometimes it's just that these things are the case. And, you got to remember as well, like, in Scarlett's position, that is probably where we've got some of the most depth. Like, if Richarlison doesn't start, you're going to be starting Sonny and Richarlison's on the bench to come on and play up front. So it's like, it's not as if I'd understand it more if you had Sonny or Richarlison playing through the middle and you had no other option, and you had to give Scarlett minutes and he wasn't giving it to him, then I kind of understand that. But I think he's given some of the young players enough opportunities. I think he could do more. I think there's been times where he's picked 2 goalkeepers on the bench, which has been a bit of a bugbear of some fans, rather than giving another opportunity, just to player the opportunity and that exposure. But I think I think it's because people are looking at other clubs too much and seeing how maybe someone like someone like Klopp, has kind of taken it or handled it at Liverpool. But again, I think it's because their hand has been forced a little bit. I don't really think that's the hill to die on when it comes to Postecoglou. And I think next season, with European football, in one way or another, these players are going to have to get more opportunities because you're naturally going to have to use the squad a little bit more, and injuries will then become more of a problem and those kind of things. Especially if we're in the Europa League, it's a great opportunity for those players to get a chance. But even in the Champions League, then that opens up more time for them to play in the cup games, because hopefully we go deep in them, and you're going to have to manage and rotate that squad. So it's not really bothered me too much, if I'm being honest. You want to see those young players play. You want to see it. But I don't think there's been many situations where I've come away feeling a little bit annoyed that he hasn't done it. Maybe he could have made a couple of changes quicker in certain games where we're more comfortable, but I think on the whole, it's not really been an issue for me.
Yeah, I think what doesn't help us is players like Kobbie Mainoo coming out of thin air and then just ripping it up, and then having that whole. I mean, you hate the fact that United have a player like Kobbie Mainoo playing for England now, and because you remember it being like when Harry Kane came through the ranks, and one of our own, and you're constantly looking for that next gem that comes out of your academy that you claim for yourself, and that the fans can get behind as almost one of you. And we have got such a plethora of talent. Plethora. Is that even a word? I'm trying to work on my...
Plethora is a word.
Did it make sense in the context?
Expanding your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It did.
I know, you're showing me up. Okay, yeah, it does make sense. Okay, let's go with that. A plethora of talent and young talent and gems. We do have so many gems, and not just players on the verge of breaking it through, but also players like Mikey Moore that probably have a few more years of development before they even get a sniff of first team football. But they are ridiculous talents, and there's definitely been more of a focus with our youth system. I just think it is the first season, and you can compare Postecoglou to Klopp, and to Guardiola, even Ten Hag getting Mainoo in, getting players through this, because United have been playing a lot of youth team players just through injuries, but they have been sort of given opportunities to players from the youth team. You can compare Postecoglou to that, but again, Postecoglou's in his first year. It's the first year of a process, and he's actually still trying to probably find out his best 11 for himself. And also, when you look at Liverpool, I know they're about to go through a whole new transition, but this is Klopp's about to leave, and they're looking at the future, and he's giving all these young players a chance because they're going to be part of the project that he's not going to oversee, and he's given them that little sniff. So almost because he's got that complete team, almost, do you know what I mean? He's had that complete project.
Yeah,
Guardiola has a complete team. A sustainable environment for young players to come in and thrive without the pressure of playing with players that aren't good enough, and with playing in a team that isn't complete yet. And so they can thrive, and they can stand out, and they can look competent, because like when we had the injury crisis, if Jamie Donnelly was starting games next to Højbjerg and Skip, he wouldn't have looked as good as if he was starting games with Bentancur or Sarr, or do you know what I mean? It's all about the right timings for those players. If they come in and they have a bad game, people are going to be like, oh, actually, they're not actually they're not that good, or maybe they're not ready. And that's the worst thing for a young player, because they'll see that and they'll feel that feedback from the fans. So you want a player to come in and feel confident and feel competent and have a solid foundation around them to thrive in. And in a first season, in a first wave of this project and this process, it's not necessary. I don't think you want to get that momentum into next season, where there's a lot more games, and that's another thing. We've had 1 game a week. So do we need to be playing youth? Probably not. So next year, when we get rid of that dead wood, and we'll get those players in that elevate us, but there'll be those opportunities there'll be so many opportunities in the League Cup, FA Cup, Europa League, Champions League, whatever competition we're in, there'll be so many opportunities for those young players to come through. And I just think we need patience around it. I think we need patience because Postecoglou knows this, the project that Tottenham want from him and the club wants from him. And he knows the importance of the youth system, and he's spoken about it so many times about how important it is, and to get those players through just when they're ready, but also when the team's ready. So I do think, and I expect to see that from Postecoglou. Expect to see youth players given an opportunity with Postecoglou overseeing it, but just a bit of patience is needed, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's really true. Like, it's just about the right environment, the right opportunity for them to kind of come in and grab it. And I think that's kind of what's happened with Liverpool, is that their hand was forced. They didn't have a choice to play these players because of the players that were unavailable. And sometimes it happens like that, and players get their opportunity. But actually, and also you've got to remember, like, some of the youngsters that we've still got out on loan as well, that you need to kind of think about integrating as well, with the likes of Alfie Devine, Ashley Phillips, who are both on loan at Plymouth. Cool. And I think there will be some of these players who are currently at the club now, who aren't on loan, who are maybe too young or developing well in the under-21s, that maybe will get that loan opportunity next season. There's a good argument to suggest that a loan might be a good idea for Donnelly next season. A loan might be good for Doington next season. A loan might be good for Santiago. We just don't know. And like you said, you need to kind of trim that squad down, get rid of the we don't have much deadwood left. There's not much of a job to do, but there are players whose future isn't at the club, who are maybe blocking the paths of some of the players coming through. So once you got those out of the way, everything becomes a little bit clearer, and there's much more of a development plan in place for them to kind of fill that, the kind of support they've got from the club and help them in their development. And I think one of the youngsters, like I touched on just then, who isn't even at the club at the moment, who I'm most excited about, is Alfie Devine. I think he can be a special talent. Yeah. And then he's almost competing with Donnelly because they play in the same position. So we kind of spoil. We've kind of got a bit of an embarrassment of riches, really, in the youth side. It's just about managing them to the best of their ability and kind of getting the best out of the talent and making sure that it doesn't happen too soon. They play when they're ready. So yeah, it's not been a bugbear of mine particularly from Postecoglou. They'll get their opportunity. I'm more than convinced of it. And again, like with Kobbie Mainoo is a good example. Like United, their hand was kind of forced a little bit to have to play him with the injuries that they had, and he's just taken his chance. And you can't look back. But not every club is the same. Just because this kid is going to go and start for England in the summer, deservedly, by the way, because he is an exceptional talent. Like, I've been so impressed with Mainoo, and it just shows that if you're good enough, you're old enough, and that's kind of what's true of Mainoo. And some of these players, I'm sure, if given the opportunity, they would not let you down. Some of the young players that we've got, but it's just about the right time. And at the moment, maybe it's not. And there's a lot on the line for Spurs, Champions League qualification, all these things. So yeah, I would, I'd be careful in terms of trying to be too hasty in terms of involving some of these lads. Yeah.
You're talking about the future of Tottenham, and now I want to talk about the past and the present of Tottenham, and actually future in maybe potentially in a coaching role for Ben Davies, who completed his UEFA A and Elite Youth A coaching licenses. Before we talk about that, how honourable was his performance last night? Because he was sensational. It was ridiculous.
I was gutted for him. Yeah, I was absolutely gutted for him. I was so proud of him. Like the speech that he was giving before the penalties to the players, it was just like, this is someone who you wouldn't necessarily associate with being that kind of. He's always been a leader and an experienced player at Spurs, but like looking from the outside in, seeing him do that, I was really, I was so gutted for him because, he stepped up, took the first penalty and scored, slotted it. I was like, I was so desperate for them to get through and have that moment. But, I think people would have said for a while that I think if you were to say who could potentially go out and be a manager of the Spurs squad, it would be Ben Davies. And that was maybe just down to his maturity. But actually, he's getting it done. He's on the pathway to become a coach. So it's exciting times. I love Ben Davies, and he's such a valuable member of this squad. It's untrue.
Yeah. Where do you think his future lies then? Because he's contracted until 2025, so he'll have at least this season. I think. I don't think we're going to sell him. I think he's a really important, like
No shot. Yeah,
mature,
I
experienced
think he'll
player
still
in
be at
this
Spurs
in this
next
team.
season.
Yeah, squad player. Postecoglou seems to love him. Versatile. He covers every position, and whenever you see Ben Davies play for us, okay, he's not a perfect player, but he's a 6 out of 10, and he wears his heart on his sleeve, and you know he's playing for that badge, and that's the type of players you need
Yeah.
when you're at, especially when you're at the beginning of a process where there's a lot of young players around him. He's definitely someone you can look up to if you're a Van der Ven, a Doggy, players in his position. That's the
Absolutely. Yeah.
mindset you need. He's been here. He's one of our longest serving players. I think he is, isn't he not?
He signed it. Yeah, he signed. I think he will be because he signed in 2014.
Yeah,
There was a
10
really good
years.
interview that he gave to ESPN with Gab and Jules, which was fascinating, and it's definitely worth a watch if people haven't watched it already. He arrived in the summer that everything sort of started to move in the right direction with Harry Kane, and they were the same age. I think they're the same age. So kind of being on that journey a little bit together, those two was sort of fascinating to hear about that. And he wasn't quite getting in the team at first, and then it sort of clicked for Ben Davies. I think that you said there, like he's kind of that 6 out of 10 steady Eddie, really. That everyone kind of needs a Ben Davies, but he's not been a 6 out of 10 this season. Every time he's stepped in, he's been
Unreal.
more. He's been brilliant. So. And I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs give him another year in this summer, like they give him a contract extension just to kind of stick around for the next couple of years. It wouldn't surprise me too much, especially with I know it doesn't matter in Europe because Welsh players don't count as homegrown, do they? But to have that homegrown player for the next couple of years, I think he brings so much, and he's got into the stage of his career where he knows what his role is now as well, and that he's the captain of his country. Just because he's not playing every week for Spurs, that doesn't mean that when he doesn't play, he's not going to give it absolutely everything, and that's what he does every time he steps on the pitch. So I think he'd make a really intelligent manager. I think he's got everything about his mindset, his demeanour, the way he carries himself. He's obviously very clever when it comes to the game. He's a good player. I could see, and he's quite often those sorts of level players that actually go on to be the most exciting managers.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me to see him once he hangs up his boots to kind of have a similar trajectory of someone like a Gary O'Neill or someone like that. I mean, maybe I don't think anyone expected Gary O'Neill to do what he's done at Wolves this season, but someone like that, someone sort of along those lines, it wouldn't surprise me with Ben Davies.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way he conducts himself, it's his mannerisms, it's the relationship he has with the squad, where he is almost like that big brother who just carries himself so like exactly how you want a professional to carry themselves. But also he has that good relationship and good rapport with all his teammates. By the seems of it, he's best mates with Sonny, and if you're best mates with Sonny, you're doing something like right. Do you know what I mean? And
well, Sonny's the godfather of his son.
So good to see that. Honestly, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But it's his mannerisms, it's the way he carries himself, and the caliber of managers that he's played under. He's played under Pochettino, and the different dynamics of the way they coach the systems they play. Pochettino, Mourinho, Conte, and Ange Postecoglou, and they all loved him. Postecoglou was saying earlier this season that him, Emerson, and Skip are the hardest trainers in the club, and how that when they're training that hard. They'll come in and they'll do
especially
a job
on the fringes
in the
as well.
game.
Yeah,
exactly. And to not complain and to not throw the toys at your pram when you're not playing. Just a pure professional, and that's perfect. That level-headedness and that professionalism, that maturity to go into management. And I see a lot of resemblance with Ryan Mason, because Ryan Mason was that steady Eddie in the team. He was a leader. But also, you wouldn't expect him to be like, you look at the players that like aesthetically pleasing, you think, next he's going to be a manager. Ryan Mason weren't that, but you can tell Ryan Mason's going to be an excellent manager. And I think Ben Davies could definitely carry on in his footsteps and join that Ryan Mason that join the Tottenham staff, maybe coach a youth team and then work his way up at Spurs. Maybe we can see one day Ryan Mason, the manager, and Ben Davies as assistant manager. I'd love to see it. I mean, I think they'd be like, do you know what I mean? You can see it. So
I think with Mason,
like
the potential that Mason has kind of already shown at Spurs, the ability to kind of galvanise that dressing room, pick it up off the floor on multiple occasions, kind of as the interim manager, and the way that he got us to play at points under him as well. I think Mason's got a bright future ahead of him. as well. And I could see Davis definitely having that similar impact, whether it's at Tottenham or whether it's somewhere else. So I think he's one to follow for sure. In the next sort of 10 years, in terms of some the kind of young, exciting managers, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think we could be having this conversation in 10 years' time, and he's doing really well at a Championship side or a League One side or something, and on that ascent towards the Premier League. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't expect him to play that much next season, but he's just that player to have in your dressing room, that player to step in when you need him, that depth if there's injuries, or do you know what I mean? Especially with the competitions we're playing, he'll be so important.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer to keep him around. I think. I think I don't see any world in which that doesn't happen. He's so valuable. Like, he's so valuable in Spurs, but he's got no value to. Not to sound harsh to Ben Davies, but he's got no value to sell on, is he? It's like you might as well.
No, exactly.
You might as well keep him. You're not going to go and find someone. You're not going to go and buy someone that's better than. Spurs can go out and buy another centre back, but for what Ben Davies brings you, you're not going to go and buy someone who's necessarily better at that.
No.
In terms of what he brings out off the pitch as well. So
I feel like every quality team needs that type of player as well. That sort of player to just lead by example. Every training session, never drop their levels. I mean, you look at players like James Milner in that Liverpool title winning team. You look at players like. I know this is a bit harsh comparing him to Scott Carson, but Scott Carson in the Man City team, top professional, top character, mature, has done it everywhere. I know Ben Davies hasn't really, but is that sort of player to in training be like, oh my god, he's not even playing, but look how he's training, and that's that mentality to have. Before we get onto the questions, because there's a couple of questions, Harry Kane. Well, not Harry Kane, but Bayern Munich have announced with Spurs that they'll be playing a friendly on the 10th of August, meaning Harry Kane's coming back to the Tottenham Stadium. How do you see his reception being, and do you see him coming back to Spurs in the future? Because the way he left, there was something weird about it. The legacy he had the club to just leave like that, and it was all up in the air, and he just left and his goodbye was shit. I'm not being funny. His goodbye was terrible. And actually, in his goodbye, he didn't even say goodbye. He just said, "I'm leaving. This isn't a goodbye because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Never say never." And Levy's come out saying we have a buyback clause on him. I'll give you my opinion. I reckon another year at Bayern after this, and then he'll come back on a relatively cheap deal. I can see him coming back to Spurs because I still think he'll be at an insane level, and I think he wants that Premier League record. I think almost this sort of delayed that decision anyways, not winning the trophy this season, unless he was the Champions League, because he's probably thinking, oh, maybe a season in Bundesliga, and then he's thinking, oh, fuck's sake, I haven't won anything for another year. I'm going to have to do this for another season, and it's sort of delaying the inevitable that I think Harry Kane is going to be playing in the Tottenham shirt again, and I do, I can see it. What do you think?
You couldn't make it up, could you? He's gone to the most sure bet team to win something, and it's just not happened for him, is it? The guy is truly cursed. But I think he will. I could see him potentially coming back one day. Like you said, I think that record is important to him, and I think he will want to get it. And I think there's no better place for him to kind of come back and do it. Really, because the level he gets better every single year. Like the level that he's playing at this season, and yes, you can say it's in the Bundesliga, and that people are desperate to call it a farmers league and all this sort of stuff. But the level that he's playing at is a joke. Yeah. He's the best striker in the world, and an argument to say he's the best player in the world on his day. He's just absolutely fantastic. And from an England perspective as well, like one thing that I thought was glaring over those two games without him is that England rely on him so much, like so much. And when he's out of the team, and naturally, like there's going to be a drop off when a striker of that quality leaves the side, but like England can't replace him. I thought Tony did a great job actually.
Yeah, you were impressed by Tony
in Brazil. You're really impressed with him. But in the first game, Watkins just can't do that. And but from a Spurs perspective, I mean, it's going to be very weird because it's the last game before the start of the season, a friendly against Bayern Munich at home. It's going to be weird. It's, like with Son and Kane, it's going to be like that Lewandowski and Royce meme, isn't it? That was the first thing that I sort of thought of. It's going to hurt when he scores, isn't it? It's inevitable. He's going to score
100%, yeah.
Yeah, give it the old fucking these little shit celebrations.
He better not celebrate because his reception would turn like toxic.
Nah, he wouldn't.
Imagine he's starts sliding in the corner flag and like starts like
yeah, and they're doing an Adebayor.
Yeah, and then friendly
exactly.
like straight after the season ends, like giving it to Daniel Levy, like calling him a wanker.
yeah. No, he'll get a great reception, Kane. Like he will get a great reception. I think it's going to be a very weird day. It's come round it would have come round very quickly.
Yeah.
It's basically a year to the day since he left. By the time that game comes round, so it's an odd one. I remember there was a rumor a few months ago that there was part of a thing of like Spurs are going to play a friendly against Bayern, but I didn't think it'd be our ground. I thought it'd probably be in America or in like
neutral stadium
in the Far East or somewhere where it's easier to stomach. But having it at Tottenham it's an odd one.
It's horrible.
But, it'll be good to see him back. It'll be good to have him back. Hopefully get some sort of like proper kind of goodbye. I think people will be expecting a little bit too much. Like, I think people will almost expect a bit too much from him on that day. Like, oh, we'll get the chance for him to say goodbye and all this sort of stuff. It will just be I think he'll do something that's a nice gesture to the fans. He'll just get a good reception. He'll be appreciative of it. I think people might end up expecting too much by the time the game comes around, expecting him to do maybe like a speech or something.
I don't know if he'll do that.
He definitely won't. Like, I think he'll just appreciate the reception that he gets and just kind of keep a bit of a low profile. But good luck to him. My love for Harry Kane hasn't really drained at all over the course. I got over the Kane thing quite quickly, actually. To be fair, like I think you just have to move on with these sorts of things. But that doesn't mean that I don't want him to go and smash it. And I can't wait to see him play back playing for England in the summer because he's just so important for us. But it's going to be a weird day. Odd day.
What we should do is like Daniel Levy secretly puts that buy back in at half time. And then like everyone comes out. He comes out
in the Spurs shirt.
In the Spurs kit. No one even like. There's no announcement, nothing. And then people going, "Oh my god, he's up front!" Then that's the announcement. It'd be like perfect. Actually, can someone switch teams during so we could just see him one more time in that Spurs kit? Can someone switch teams in a friendly? I swear, Luka Modric did it one year or something like that.
I think he did. I think he actually did. Dane Scarlett finally gets his chance. Dane, you're coming off, mate. Dane. Substitution. Harry's back. He's going to get him and Maddison wrestling for that number 10 shirt again.
Yeah. Maddison playing number 71 again. It'll be funny if there was a trophy to win at the end of it, innit? Or like, if we beat Bayern, we're doing like lifting a trophy in front of Harry Kane.
Yeah, wanker. But this is what you could have won. The visit. Fucking what was it? What's the trophy? It's like the visit. It's the visit. Oh, what country is it? I'll find it in a sec.
Audi Cup point Mark 2.
Literally, yeah. Get the Musa Sissoko meme back up. That was hilarious. What is it? It's the great podcast, isn't it? Visit Malta Cup. Kane's going to win his first ever trophy against Tottenham
at the Spurs stadium,
at our fucking ground in the Visit Malta Cup. Twitter is going to be an unbearable place.
It's so memeable though, that game. You just know it. Like anything happens with Harry Kane and Spurs, it will just be so clippable.
Yeah. I've just looked at the date. I've just looked at the date of it. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so I can't go. Shit. I won't be able to see Harry Kane score against Tottenham. Oh, sorry, babe. Do you want to fancy going to the game?
You want a day out in London, in North London?
You want a day? Yeah, lovely this. Babe, why are we going to Tottenham?
We'll see. Why are we on the high road? Ben, where are we going?
Yeah. I booked a table at Chick King.
Yeah. But my question is, if you had the opportunity, if you had the chance, would you, because obviously I'm going to use Tony in this because you're impressed by him yesterday, would you sign Tony this summer, or would you wait one more year, Richarlison, Sonny, integrate Scarlett, maybe even Valise, if Valise is going to have the opportunity in Europe, and then sign Harry Kane next summer? What are you doing?
Sign Kane back all day, man.
Yeah, of course it is.
That.
Fuck Tony off.
I'm happy with our striker options. I'm not desperate for Spurs to sign a striker in the summer. I think that the priority forward signing, I think, has to be another winger. Personally, and someone maybe who can compete a little bit with Maddison, because I think Lo Celso will be on the way out. That's why I think the signing like Eze makes a little bit makes sense. I think that has drawbacks, but I think a lot of it kind of does make sense. Yeah, I think it's Kane all day. I was really impressed with Tony against Belgium, because from an England perspective, I think, like I said, I think England are so over-reliant on him. But I actually think Tony did a great job of almost playing exactly how Kane would play. I think especially when you're kind of going into the Euros and tournament football, you're looking at someone that can play with their back to goal for the most of the game. Watkins isn't going to have the kind of space to run into the channels like he does for Aston Villa. The system is kind of geared up for Watkins, whereas Tony, I think he can make things happen and drop deep, link players up, get the best out of Bellingham. So, and that from an England perspective, and I think Tony, I think my kind of personal feelings towards Tony kind of clouded my judgment a little bit on where I think I would want him at Spurs. And I think it's just a bit of an age thing, because it's like, would you go and sign Tony at 28 when you've got Son and Richarlison there already? I'm not so sure. It's almost just like he's just a couple of years too old, even though he's in his prime, and maybe Spurs need to pivot towards signing a couple of players who are there ready. But I think with the players that we've got already, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say no. I mean, if they said, you're going to sign Ivan Tony in the summer, I'd be like, all right,
yeah, I'd be happy with it. But I think there's other positions that like strengthen first. But imagine the irony of and the beauty of Kane struggling at Spurs all these years, and for years after that Poch era, having a team that was just so incomplete around him, just such a mess, and then having Kane to come in and be the last piece of the puzzle in a completed side. How ironic, but in a beautiful way would that be? Of Kane's been struggling all this time with Spurs, leaves, comes back, and he's like that guy that comes in and he completes the team that was never complete with him in it. Yeah. I just think it would be like
it's
perfect.
Like a
film.
It's like a film where the boy meets the girl and they fall in love, but then they break up, and then she goes off with another fella, and then actually she realises that it was him all along, and he comes back to Spurs and we fucking win the treble, and that's how the film ends. Like that, it's like that. It's a love story, and then like Taylor Swift starts playing in the background, and everyone's just like, "Oh my god! Like this was so beautiful. This was meant to be this whole time." Just fucking 2026, 2027 treble winners. Tottenham Hotspur. Harry Kane wins the Golden Boot and breaks Shearer's record in one season.
Yeah,
just scores like 50 goals.
And before they never won anything at Bayern. Like even next season they still don't win anything, and he plays under Conte or something like that, and just comes back like it's a toxic relationship. And he realises what he actually had. You don't know what you got.
They were right for each other all along.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
We'll get on to. There's one question. Really quick, bit of fun after that international break. This is from Matt Jupe on Instagram. Thanks for getting your questions in, by the way, everyone. But he says, should James Maddison start at the Euros? And because Maddison made such an impact on the game yesterday, and you're looking at that midfield, what do you think going into the Euros?
I think it's so tough. I think I saw a tweet last night that was almost like, I think people forgot how good James Maddison actually was prior to the injury that he had, because he came on and made such an impact last night, and I think he can be a really valuable member of that squad. I just, as sad as it is, as much as I'd love to see Madders get in that first team for the Euros and just rip it up for the summer, I just think that if you take your Spurs hat off, I just think that you've got to play Bellingham in that position. And I think we saw last night how well that midfield three of Rice, Mainu and Bellingham could work. So I remember in some of the summer games just after Maddison signed, or maybe it was the first international break, he tried playing Maddison on the left, and it was just like a little bit of it didn't work. And again, like, you're just going to have to play Foden there, aren't you? Like, it's just, as much as I'd love to see Maddison really have a massive impact for England in the summer, which he definitely can do off the bench as well, by the way. Like, he can do 100%. That. We saw that last night. And the problem is as well, there's so many players in that position. You've got Palmer there as well, but Maddison gets in there over Palmer for sure. I've been so impressed with Palmer, but that's not really a discussion. But you've got a lot of players that can play there, so he's got a bit of a roadblock. But I think he'll have an impact. I think he'll be from the bench.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all comes down to the system Southgate plays. I think he wants that protection in the midfield, where Maddison is that little bit of that risky. You're a bit more vulnerable than you are if you're having Bellingham Mainu and Rice, because that is such a solid, perfectly balanced midfield, especially with the system that Southgate plays. But you're looking at it, obviously, because you always compare Southgate and Postecoglou as a Spurs fan. You're looking at that England's team thinking, if that was Postecoglou, with having that Bellingham in that Sarr position, Maddison just like with that free roll, and then like Rice or Mainu, it'd be perfect. And then you invert the fullbacks, Trent left back, and then I walk out. Anyways, but that's not going to happen with Southgate.
And we'd win the lot. We'd win
100%.
Win it all.
We're so overwhelming for any team just for our attacking prowess, but it's not going to happen. So I think Maddison, start with that midfield, because I do like that midfield, and then have Maddison as that like catalyst. I think that catalyst sort of come on in games where we're struggling a bit for creativity, and but he's definitely, ability-wise, definitely one of England's most best players, but he's in a team where it's quite a overcrowded midfield, and Southgate's not one to sort of have that sort of number 10 role. He's not going to prioritise that. He's probably going to, if he could, Southgate would probably have another centre-back over a number 10.
Just Henderson in the 10, like running about and screaming at people.
He's got a good character, so he'll do all right. But I can see that. Him coming off the bench and being a catalyst for England, which is actually a very important player to have. Right, I think that's it. Sorry, quite a long pod again, but I thoroughly enjoyed that, mate. You're a legend. And where can we find you, mate?
You too, mate. You can find me Ben Talks Football on TikTok. You can find me on Twitter, Ben Bowman. YouTube coming soon. Make sure you follow everything Darren and doing. Follow the lab. Get involved with the lab as well on Spotify and Apple. The Fighting Cock podcast. I'm going to be doing weekly episodes on there. And but most importantly, subscribe to Darren and doing on YouTube and everywhere else as well. TikTok. Let's try and get to. We want to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok, which we're not far away from, to be fair. So go and follow us on there so we can do like lives and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that would be perfect. Yes, please. And keep interacting, because we absolutely love it when you interact. Let us know what you think of each episode, and subscribe to YouTube, Darren and Doing, and follow us on Spotify at Darren and Doing podcast. But thank you so much, everyone, and thanks for joining us.
And review as well. Review.
Let us know what you think.
Hit that 5 stars.
Yeah.
Give us that 5 stars.
Really quick, Ben. Score predictions against Luton. What are you thinking?
6-0? No.
6-0?
You were the one that said we're going to win by 5+ goals. So I want to see you back that up with your prediction.
Yeah. 5-1. Yeah, I don't care who scores at 5-1.
I'm going to go for 3-1.
3-1. Yeah.
Richy on the score sheet. Maddison on the score sheet.
Yeah.
And Son probably. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going for a rogue shout?
No.
Just stick to your guns. Yeah, I don't care who scores. I just want a 5-1, 6-1. That's all I want. That's
going off Emerson Royale's arse, and I wouldn't give a shit. We need the 3 points.
Anything to sort of just make me forget that Fulham result. Just hit me up with so much overwhelming amounts of dopamine, and all's forgiven. So let's hope we bounce back against Luton. Up the Spurs.
Quiz.